Right now on the National Weather Desk, deadly tornado.
Oh my goodness!
More than 24 are dead after a powerful nighttime twister leaves communities in ruins.
Thank God we're alive, but also we're so devastated by the loss.
Another storm then pounded Georgia, and even more could be on the way today.
As soon as I woke up, it's like the day hasn't stopped.
Winter's last call? More than a foot of snow falls in Wisconsin.
We were expecting some, but we really weren't expecting this kind of volume.
Bounce house dangers. Windy weather turns a day of fun into a near tragedy.
After wind got underneath it, it ripped that stake out of the ground and sent it careening into that fence.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. A deadly series of storms ripped through the South over the weekend. At least 25 people died Friday night after a tornado tore a path of destruction across 170 miles of northern Mississippi. Hundreds of homes and businesses are now gone. And then on Sunday, a likely tornado hit the town of Milledgeville, just northeast of Macon. The twister brought down trees and power lines. Several people are injured, but are expected to survive and to be okay. And as that storm moved from Mississippi to Alabama, it dropped quarter-sized hail on communities. Damage was limited to some trees and even some power lines. But check out the lightning right there. Our storm chaser, Brett Adair, captured these shots with a drone. And on Friday night, Brett was in Mississippi moments after the tornadoes hit.
I mean, these houses are wrecked. That's a mobile home with a frame there. Look at it wrapped completely around.
And this is what Silver City looked like. Homes, as you can see there, reduced to rubble. It was a scene that played out at communities across northern Mississippi. We have two reports for you this morning. We'll take you to the cleanup efforts in Mississippi in just a moment, but we start with a storm that hit yesterday near Macon, Georgia. Meteorologist Ryan Mirando has details.
Sunday morning.
I got a report of damage there. The EMS will be unable to respond if you can't check the structures in that area.
Milledgeville and Baldwin County residents, about 30 miles northeast of Macon, woke up to the alarms of a tornado warning. Like many other residents, Bailey Miller was shocked to see the destruction in his community.
What was going through my head was just wanting to make sure that most of our folks around here were okay.
Many reacting the same way, as damage was almost everywhere you turned, from downed trees, power lines, billboards, to roads being blocked as workers began cleaning up.
It was definitely surprising. I went to college here, and we always got kind of, the tornado watch and warnings, and apart from a couple times, never had anything terribly serious. And so to see some damage come from it and be able to track where it kind of went, it was definitely a little bit surreal.
During the tornado warning, the National Weather Service confirmed the tornado by a spotter and sparked a strong debris ball signature on radar as it moved north of Milledgeville just before 8 in the morning. Miller says he's thankful that most of the damage was to fixable property, but will never forget what he saw.
And so just to see, the building behind us be okay and just a block over, see something like that happen, it's definitely sad to see.
And now back to Mississippi, where the recovery from Friday night's tornado will be daunting. One person described the town you see right here, Rolling Fork, as obliterated. It is not hard to see why. A National Weather Service team is now assessing the damage and determining if any other tornadoes touch down. Here's another view of Rolling Fork, where 13 people were killed. These are before and after satellite images right here. You can see before the tornado it was lush, it was green, but now all of those trees have been uprooted along with the lives of the people who live there. Here's what the storm looked and sounded like as it hit. You can see it there. A camera inside Armory High School was rolling as the storm hit. You can see debris flying everywhere. Remarkably, the school district says the building is mostly sound. Unfortunately, that's not the case for many others in Mississippi. Madeline Nolan has more.
Words can't express what I'm feeling. I'm just broken and I'm numb. And knowing that My little boy could have been in this if I had picked him up.
Heartbroken family members still picking up the pieces of their loved ones after a tornado devastated Rolling Fork, killing at least 13, including David Brown's parents.
I just wish I spent a little bit more time with him yesterday before I left. And I still got to tell my son that they're gone.
Melissa and Lonnie Pierce were tragically killed after their neighbor's 18-wheeler landed on their home.
And I was told that they passed away in each other's arms.
Michael Brown says that his Aunt Melissa was the family photographer, telling us she always made everyone take photos.
I always was upset when I was younger that she would make us take these pictures, but now today, thinking about it, it's just something that I'm so happy she did.
Oh, she's even younger.
The family of the two spending the days following the tornado salvaging anything and everything they could from what's left of the home, looking for pieces of the two they can cherish.
Honestly, if I could find anything in the rubble or whatever, it would be more than anything.
And unfortunately, there could be more severe weather for the South this evening. Let's turn now to meteorologist Brian Vandergraff, who is tracking the storm. Brian?
Yeah, that whole system continues its progression from west to east. And today, this morning, we are looking at some stronger weather down through portions of Georgia, where tornado watches are up through mid-morning. There are a line of some hefty showers and storms right now that continue to progress eastward. And that area they're heading into this afternoon, including portions of the panhandle of Florida, portions of Alabama, portions of Georgia, and even into South Carolina from Savannah back to Vidalia up to Macon and Albany. They're under a level 2 slight risk. The biggest concern today are damaging wind gusts and large hail. Fortunately today, tornado threat is lower, but nonetheless, everyone on guard after this storm has been so historic in its devastation across the southern U.S. over the last few days.
All right, thanks, Brian. And now to Wisconsin, where some folks woke up to more snow than they expected on a Saturday morning, more than a foot in some places. Lydia Anderson caught up with folks who were doing the heavy lifting, trying to clear away all that snow.
Snowplows in the city of De Pere had an unexpected wake-up call Saturday morning.
Really taken by surprise as far as the volume of snow. We were expecting some, but we really weren't expecting this kind of volume.
Street Superintendent Tony Feetzer says the crews started with the main streets, then focused on the neighborhoods and side streets after. City employees weren't the only ones shocked. The Newhouse family in De Pere spent over an hour shoveling its driveway.
Yesterday, you could see all the bushes and all the front of the house, and then I woke up and everything was white outside.
Andrew Newhouse says the snow was difficult to shovel.
Very heavy, very wet. It's just not fun.
Residents in the city of Shawano say they're grateful to not be dealing with the amount of snow that Brown County has. As you can see behind me, the sidewalks and the streets are looking a lot more bare.
I'm so excited that we didn't get any more snow. We're ready for it to be done, and things are warming up, and we just want to get out and start doing stuff without boots and snow pants and hats and mitts.
Yeah. I didn't even know there was a storm in Green Bay. I'm just kind of chilling. I don't even have a jacket on today. It's been really nice up over here, so.
And now this, 2 tigers are safe and sound after they broke free from a drive-through safari park in central Georgia during Tornado Sunday. The tigers escaped as the violent weather moved through the area. Wild Animal Safari is located in Pine Mountain. That's about 80 miles southwest of Atlanta. The storm caused extensive damage to the park. Workers eventually recaptured the tigers using those tranquilizer darts. No other staff or animals were hurt in all of this. And now, check this out. Drone footage released by the Spanish Civil Guard shows one of the largest whales, you're looking at right here, species in the entire world. The gigantic fin whale weighs, get this, about 40 tons and is 55 foot long. It was seen with a rare deformation off the Spanish coast. That deformation was severe scoliosis. Studies have revealed that traumatic events such as a collision with a ship can cause that type of abnormality. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll talk with an expert about how studying ocean currents can help understand weather patterns better. Plus, tips to keep you safe in the event of a severe flood.
Well, our next storm system is going to move through the northeast for the day on Monday. We're looking at some snow up towards the northern areas and also some rain showers and some heavier rain in some parts of southern New England. This continues to move off towards the east, and then by the time we get to Tuesday, most of this is going to be on out of here. So that is some good news if you have Tuesday plans outdoors. And snowfall-wise, we're really not looking at much. Maybe a coating to 2 to 4 inches in some parts of areas of New York, southern Vermont, New Hampshire.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Going to start with some mainly clear skies through about midnight. Then things get a bit more interesting overnight, especially after midnight. Southeastern Virginia, the Tidewater getting some rain, and then rain tries to move in from the west. It's going to take some time with that next weather maker encountering some dry air, but I think it is a wetter day on Monday. When you wake up, temperatures 40s and 50s, maybe some 30s north and higher elevations. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Venus Reed. Here's a look at your forecast highs. We're looking at temperatures kind of hot down in parts of Florida in the upper 80s, 87 in Tampa, 86 West Palm, 78 in Raleigh, looking at 78 Atlanta, 67 Nashville. A little cooler air moving in behind that front that fired off a lot of severe storms across parts of Mississippi, Alabama last night. But through today, it looks like we could get some strong storms south of Macon and Augusta, Georgia, down towards Charleston. A little bit of rain as well as that front pushes through Jacksonville later tonight. We'll start to clear up later in the week.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, a team of scientists just set sail from New Zealand and are headed to East Antarctica to study ocean currents. Emily Gracie recently caught up with one of them on the ship to find out how sediment core research will help them better understand global weather patterns.
So the most important reason why Antarctica impacts the weather is because Antarctica is the place on Earth where the water in the ocean at the surface gets very salty and dense, and it sinks to the bottom. So in addition to that swirling current, we have a lot of sea ice formation. So when sea ice forms, it leaves behind very cold, very salty, very dense water after the ice forms. And that sinks to the bottom of the ocean and basically travels around the world in this process called thermohaline circulation, but referred to as the ocean conveyor belt. And so this is essentially what drives the circulation of all the major ocean currents worldwide, both in the deep sea and in the surface waters.
So what are you hoping to learn? What are you excited about?
So this is a pretty momentous occasion just from a science perspective, because U.S. research teams never get down here. We're always mostly on the other side of Antarctica, the Western Antarctic Peninsula. And so it's just a very remote region, just very unexplored. And so we don't know what we're going to find. And that's really exciting. But we definitely know we're going to find a lot of new species down here.
Tell me about the tools you use, and you just jump in the water and grab samples, or how does it work?
No, we're not actually allowed in the water. So if someone's in the water, that's a pretty big problem. So we all stay on the boat. We use a bunch of different types of sampling equipment. My team uses sediment cores. So think of like the PVC pipes in your house that you use for plumbing. We send down those tubes to the bottom, to the seafloor, and then we push them in, and then they get blocked off and then brought back up to the surface. And I study microscopic worms called nematodes, roundworms. And so there are thousands of those worms that are microscopic living in the sediment. So we'll bring that back. We'll typically put stuff in the freezer and bring it back to the labs because we do DNA sequencing and genomics. So we'll bring it back to the labs at the University of Georgia, and we will do PCR and DNA sequencing to basically try to discover those new species.
And we will be following up with Holly and her team when they are back on dry land in May to see how many new species they actually found. In the meantime, if you want to see a longer version of this interview where she talks about how she prepared for that 2-month journey without internet, log on to YouTube and search the National Weather Desk. The historic storms that hit California helped many portions of the state really get out of a drought. Experts say reservoirs and surface storages are looking good. But what about underground water storage? Myra Franco fills us in on how this very wet season could bring about change for how California stores water.
Historically, people thought of our water resources as the reservoirs and maybe the snowpack.
But there's another place from where we get our water, and the biggest of all. It's called groundwater storage. Think of it like a savings account that we use when we really need it. In terms of water supply, Graham Falk, a professor emeritus of hydrology at the University of California, Davis, says we've used a lot of it throughout the previous drought years.
During dry conditions, California tends to get as much as 60% of its water supply for drinking and irrigation and industrial purposes from groundwater, and the rest from surface water.
Falk says our reservoirs are looking pretty good right now, but we have been using more water than what we can supply from our groundwater storage. The big problem? Unregulated overpumping.
California has always been in a groundwater drought in modern times because, in general, it's been using too much.
He says we're taking out water, but we're not putting back more in, which will cost us down the road. One wet year won't help us recover quickly like our reservoirs do.
We have a drought longer than 2 or 3 years, which we've had quite a bit of periods like that recently. The reservoirs can get down to dangerously low levels that won't supply the water you need. So you get 2 or 3 years of water security from our reservoirs in a drought.
The goal is to divert the peaks of the flood flows from reservoirs into groundwater recharge banks so we have it when we need it.
April is almost here, and as the saying goes, April showers bring May flowers. But any time of the year, heavy rainfall can lead to dangerous situations for lives and also for property. Meteorologist Dante Ricky is here with some tips to keep you safe when flood waters rise.
Heavy rain in a short period of time can lead to creeks and streams overflowing their banks, and as a result, flooding. Flooding is extremely dangerous, especially to those of you driving, because you cannot see floodwaters from a distance or tell how deep they are. If you encounter a flooded roadway, turn around, don't drown, and find another way to get home safely. This is especially dangerous at night where you can't necessarily see the floodwaters. It only takes about 1 foot of flowing water to cause a dangerous situation for your vehicle and knock it off of the roadway. In the state of West Virginia, over half of our counties have had a flood-related death within the last 30 years, many of them the direct result of driving through a flooded roadway. So here's what you can do to prepare at home. If you happen to live near a stream or creek, especially in the northern and western parts of our viewing area through the end of this week, move to higher ground. Do what you can to take anything on the lower floors of your home and move them upwards while it is still good weather outside. Do not attempt to walk or swim through any floodwaters. It seems reasonable, but floodwater can contain bacteria, it can be an electric shock hazard, and also a lot of animals and things and wildlife can also flow through that floodwater, so it can create a dangerous situation. Do not touch or operate any electrical appliances during times of flooding, and if you have to evacuate, make sure you do that well before the storm. Stay safe, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dante Ricky.
A portion of Wisconsin's Sturgeon Bay is hosting a winter fleet of firefighters that are on the tail end of a winter break. But Eric Peterson reports the cargo ships will return to the Great Lakes soon enough.
It may look like a huge parking lot on the water, but the yard at Fincanterre Base Shipbuilding in Sturgeon Bay is filled with some very heavy vessels.
We'll get anywhere from 12 to 15 of these Great Lakes freighters that will come and spend the winter here in Sturgeon Bay.
Destination Door County Chief Communications Officer John Jarsch says many of the ships are 1,000 feet long and will be hauling cargo around the Great Lakes very soon. Officials say the vessels arrived a few months ago and are at the shipyard for maintenance and repair. Typical work might include mechanical upgrades and even a paint job.
The companies don't really
announce their comings and goings as they used to do in the past. They really see it as a competitive advantage to keep that information close to the vest.
Door County Maritime Museum Deputy Director Sam Perlman says people are able to track ship activity online or with numerous webcams nearby.
We watch them as they come in. We eagerly anticipate them heading back out.
John Jarsh agrees.
It really is a neat reflection of our maritime heritage here, and not only our heritage, but these ships represent the future too.
Well, time for a short break, but as we go, here's a look at the Pacific Ocean near San Francisco.
Well, a very good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. We got rain across the Ohio Valley moving out this morning, and then we got a little snow starting to move its way in from the west there, and going to be far western portions of the Midwest. Up to North Dakota, a little bit of light snow possible for the day tomorrow, but generally pretty quiet for most of our Tuesday. Cool temperatures and a little bit of very light snow across the Great Lakes, Wisconsin, Iowa there. As we head into your Wednesday, temperatures still staying cool.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at our forecast across the region. Well, it will be more humidity flowing on in from the Gulf of Mexico across southern and central Texas. That'll lead to a marginal risk of severe storms this evening from San Antonio to Austin. Otherwise, a cool afternoon. 50s and 60s across North Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Some of these storms, though, to the south may have large hail and damaging winds. Overnight, temperatures falling into the 30s, all the way, though, to the 60s and 70s down to the south.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. Temperatures staying well below normal for most areas from the Pacific Northwest down into the Southwest. Salt Lake City only hitting a high of 39 today. And the Northern Rockies will get another foot of snowfall expected from a stationary boundary. We've got a new storm system slamming into California. Even the Sacramento Valley may get 1 to 2 inches of snow overnight. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
And now to North Carolina, where a Little League opening day turned scary when the weekend and high winds, played a role. Samir Nefzi has more.
The inaugural day for the 2023 Transylvania Little League baseball season ending with lights and sirens.
We had 2 inflatable rides that were here that were actually blown from their anchored position across the park.
In total, 7 people were injured, with 4 taken to an area hospital with what officials are calling minor injuries. No one was inside the houses, but were hit by them once they went airborne.
And this is where one of the bounce houses was located. Let's go ahead and take a look at the ground. You can see this is where a 2-foot stake secured the bounce house to the ground. After wind got underneath it, it ripped that stake out of the ground and sent it careening into that fence.
This fence now bowed out and broken after the house slammed into it. This second bounce house is estimated to have flown about 100 yards, landing between 2 other fields. A spokesperson for the Transylvania Little League calling it an unfortunate event.
And thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll check in with cleanup efforts in the South after those massive storms. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Monday, and we'll see you right back here.